Hi everyone. Today we're going to be talking about E.T. and 2001: A Space Odyssey. So in E.T., the movie starts with E.T. being left behind after his spaceship crew leaves him, and the government is chasing after him. So he kind of runs into this field to escape them. So Elliot finds him, and he runs back and tells his family, but nobody really believes him until I think the next day. He finds him again in the field, and he ends up eventually luring him back home with candy. And once home, he introduces him to his sister and his brother. And within the first day of meeting each other, Et and Elliot kind of do this ritual where they mimic each other's movements. And after this, they are connected and they can feel what the other one is feeling. And this can be seen when Et starts drinking a lot of beer at home, and Elliot starts to feel the effects of that when he's in school. And when Elliot is supposed to be dissecting a frog, he can't do it, and he ends up letting free all the other frogs. And he also ends up kissing a girl, which is a result of Et watching a movie at home, where the same thing happens. And then towards the end of the movie, when Et starts to die, Elliot also starts to die until their connection is broken. So and I mean Elliot and his siblings teach Et about Earth, and then in an attempt to show them where he comes from, Et ends up making objects move. He makes them elevate, and that's where we kind of see the first breath of his his powers that he has. And then after this, it is also shown that he is actually intelligent, and he's able to make a sort of communication device out of just objects from the house in order to send a message to the spaceship so they can come back and save him. So going back to ET's powers, he's been shown to have many magic and supernatural like powers that allow him to elevate things. This happens again when he's explaining where he comes from, and also when Elliot is riding his bike. He levitates the both of them, and he does this again at the end of the movie when Elliot and his friends are running away from the police. He makes them all elevate in order to escape. He also has been shown to have healing powers, which he uses on Elliot when he cuts his finger. And he also tries to use it on Elliot's brother because his Halloween costume, he has kind of like a knife over his head. So E.T. thinks that he's hurt, and he tries to heal him. E.T. can also be seen as a vegetation god because of the influence he has on plants. He's a botanist in the planet that he comes from, and so he has a influence over the plants he comes into contact with on Earth. This can be seen where when the plants shrivel up and die when he dies, and then when he resurrects, the plants also come back to life. And this cycle of death and resurrection also ties back to the vegetation god myth. So another thing that I found interesting about his species is that their hearts are shown to glow when they're communicating. So this is seen in the beginning when they're all sort of examining the plants. All their little hearts are growing, and you can see that. And then at the end, after Et sort of like resurrects, his heart starts to glow. And then again, like all the way at the end of the movie when he's saying goodbye to Elliot and his sister and brother. So the entire story in and of itself can be thought of as a myth, since it's technically not known for certain if extraterrestrials do exist. So for now, that is still technically a myth. Um, so music is used in this movie to, in the beginning, to create suspense when Elliot first meets Et, and when he's searching for him and trying to bring him back into the house. And then music is also used to portray Et as a peaceful, curious, and non-threatening creature, as opposed to maybe in other movies where aliens are seen as more like harmful and violent. The music here it helps show him as a more peaceful person. Cinematography is also used to create kind of a mystery around the people who are searching for Et, because we don't actually get to see their faces until the very end of the movie. For the majority of the movie, all we see is kind of this one man's keys as he walks around the different parts of town looking for traces of Et. So this movie is can be considered both science fiction and fantasy because it has elements of both. It shows space travel and extraterrestrials, but then in the fantasy realm, it also shows kind of magic through the powers that ET has. So moving on to Space Odyssey, the first about half hour of the movie doesn't have any dialogue, and the very beginning of the movie creates suspense because it's just kind of darkness, and then it pans to Earth. So this kind of like depicts how vast space is, and it kind of also like demonstrates the creation of the planet. So when it focuses into Earth, it shows a lot of animals, mostly monkeys and some other animals around this watering hole, and it kind of shows their interactions until this monolith appears and comes down, and it appears to accelerate the monkeys' intelligence. They learn to use tools, and then they use this to kind of kill other animals and take over another tribe. So this kind of alters their daily ritual because it's something different than what they're used to, and then as their intelligence grows, their rituals kind of change and they become a bit more violent. So millions of years later, another monolith is found on the moon, and so scientists go to investigate it. And when they do, sunlight hits it for the first time in a long time, and the monolith begins a transmission to Jupiter. So 18 months later, a spacecraft is headed for Jupiter, and this spacecraft is controlled mainly by the HAL 9000, which is a type of AI. So as the story progresses, the astronauts plan to turn off HAL because it's discovered that there's been a mistake in one of his calculations. And when Hal realizes this, he turns against the humans and he ends up killing all but one of the humans. And so this remaining astronaut, his name is Bowman, he um, he ends up finding his way back into the spacecraft, and then he flies to the intended destination where there's another monolith, and which he travels through, and it appears to be a type of portal, and so he ends up appearing in a bedroom where he sees older versions of himself, and then another monolith appears, after which he kind of turns into a giant fetus overlooking Earth, and then that's how the movie ends. So violence is very prevalent throughout this movie. Mostly, what I notice is that it comes up when the normal ritual is kind of disrupted. So this happens in the beginning when the monkeys encounter the monolith, and then it sort of, I think, increases their intelligence, and then they begin to become more violent. It also occurs with Hal when he's normally thought of as to have no mistakes. So when that sort of ritual of perfection is disrupted, he begins to kill the astronauts, and then that also affects Bowman because he ends up having to kill Hal in order to sort of save himself. So in this movie, also the monoliths and AI itself also have like a godlike presence. So in the sense that monoliths kind of are implied to have taken part in evolution and to move humans along in their evolution in a kind of godlike way, and then the HAL 9000 computer is AI, and it's godlike in the sense that it is meant to be all knowing, and it's meant to be perfect and to have no flaws. And so yeah, that's all I got for today, and see you guys next time.